Hello and welcome. I'm David Robinson, the online editor at The Banker, and today we're going to look at Central Asia, a region otherwise known as the Stands. Oil and gas has long been the economic backbone of many Central Asian countries. But as the oil and gas sector comes under pressure, this may be changing. And some countries in the region are turning towards green energy projects to bridge the gap. With me to discuss this is Kimberly Long, the Asia editor at The Banker. So, Kim, is the Central Asia region still as dependent as ever on oil and gas for domestic use and for exports?
Yes, it's still a really big export market for the region. It's still a real backbone for the economy, but the past year has really posed some issues in terms of international demand as it's just really dried up. So China and Russia are the biggest importers of oil and gas from the region, but China's consumption dropped fourfold for several months during 2020 due to the pandemic. And Russia, meanwhile, completely shut off its exports from the region. So these were both the major importers. So to lose both of those in one go has been a big blow to the region. But also the oil and gas companies are still major contributors to the tax coffers as well every year. So they're still a really important source of income for the region. And then, as you say as well, there's also the domestic energy aspect. So there was a really bad winter this year in Uzbekistan over the winter months, and it showed the limitations of the aging infrastructure, some of which is like decades old, as it just could not cope with the demand for energy. And this also resulted in energy outages, which then led to protests, which is not great for a government. So it's a really pressing issue in the region.
Interesting. So tell me more about the shift towards green energy.
Yeah, so there's a real recognition in the region, as there is globally, that there's a need to modernize the energy sector to move towards greener forms of energy. Both Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan have made concrete pledges to reduce their carbon emissions in the coming years, so moving towards 2030 and 2040. But interestingly, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan don't have the oil and gas reserves that some of their neighbours do. So they've already started to look towards alternative sources, particularly hydropower. And renewable energy could also help to solve energy issues across the region, as it might be possible to export supplies between the countries, although there is a lot of work that would need to be done to improve infrastructure before this was possible. And it's also seen as being a way to create a new revenue stream in the region. As the dependency on oil and gas exports decline, there's a need to replace it with something else. And exporting renewable energy could be the solution. So as already mentioned, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan have these real great sources of hydropower energy production. And there's plans already to look at how to export that hydropower excess that's seen every summer in those countries through Afghanistan and into Pakistan to help them with their energy issues.
But I suppose the key question, of course, is how are these new projects being financed?
When there's big changes like this, there's need for outside funding, and the region is really looking to attract international funding to help with these projects. And to begin with, there's a lot of support already from the development banks, such as the ADB, the EBRD, and the World Bank, because it fits with their mandates to reduce dependence on fossil fuels and also to ensure energy is being provided to the population in the region. But there are also big steps to establish public-private partnerships with international investors to fund these projects. And this has already seen interest from the UAE through to Malaysia and South Africa. So it's gaining a lot of international interest. But also interestingly in the region, because it is a majority Islamic region, there's a big possibility that Islamic financing, especially through green sukuk bonds, could be something that is used as a way of gaining finance in the region. Although it's really in its early stages, as Islamic finance is not widely used as yet, but it is another possibility that could be looked at in the future.